You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello, welcome to Claret and Blue. My name's Dan Rowenson. I'm joined this evening by John Townley as we talk about Manchester United 1, Aston Villa 0. The 10-game unbeaten streak comes to an end. We score in every game under Unai Emery comes to an end. The race for European football is still well and truly on. I think the top four is probably beyond us now, which is a shame. It's probably never going to happen. And I think there was a predictor of us getting top four was like 0.1% or something. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's out the window now. So boo, no Champions League football next season. But top 6, top 7 is definitely still on. 4 games to go. We'll kind of talk about the wider picture, little bits from Man United. But today's show I wanted to be guided by the live comments that are watching along on Facebook and YouTube. So if you've got a question or a comment or an opinion that you want us to talk about, we'll get our initial kind of thoughts out of the way, and then we're just going to dive into the comments and go a bit more interactive than usual. John, first of all, how are you? How's things?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Difficult that we've lost this afternoon, but to be honest, I think a lot of fans are kind of taking it as we sort of take the medicine on this one and go for Wolves next week. There's 4 games left of the season. No one had expected us to be competing for Europe. If we get it, then fantastic. There'll be a tinge of disappointment if we don't. But hey, 4 games left. We're still well within a shout of getting it. Spurs have just lost in the last minute again today, blowing another lead. They seem to do that most weeks if they're not already losing or lose the game. So yeah, although obviously it's not in our hands because Brighton have got games on us, and we're still going to have to beat Spurs at home and things like that, and hope that they slip up even more. So it still feels like it's within our own destiny a little bit, which is great going into the last 4 games. And as I say, we've lost today, but yeah, there's no sort of disappointment from my end. We'll let's just attack the last 4 games and see what it can get us.
Well, today's results saw us drop down to 7th, but if the Spurs-Liverpool game went slightly differently, and yes, Spurs losing is good, but if they lost by a couple more, we'd have actually gone back up into 6th on goal difference, so it's still very, very tight. Yeah. We've played the same amount of games as Spurs now. We're level on points. Their goal difference is 2 better. Liverpool have played 1 game less, but have 2 points more than us both. And Brighton are behind us on 52 points, but 3 games on us and Spurs and 2 games on Liverpool. But we've talked about the kind of running before. Brighton have got a lot of games in quick succession. How will that affect them? Against Wolves yesterday didn't affect them at all. We'll talk about Wolves and Villa as well towards the end of this show, I guess. The kind of running, I guess, and we will talk about Man United in a sec. The way I see it is that we want Spurs to keep losing because I think they're the most vulnerable. There was a stage where I thought maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that if top 4 is possible, which I never really thought it was, but it was kind of like, Man United, and maybe they're the ones to drop out. They've been knocked out of the Europa League. They've gone far in the FA Cup. They went to extra time in the semi-final. They looked a little bit leggy against Spurs and gave that lead away. If we'd have beaten them today, you'd have gone, maybe Man United are going to be the ones to drop down into the mix. Not for Villa to get top 4, but to kind of drag someone else back into it. Now they're kind of guarantees for top 4, but all but done, I would say. Them and Newcastle, so kind of forget about those for now. Liverpool will win most games left, I think, and probably finish 5th, and then it's between us and Brighton and Spurs for 6th. And Brighton, yes, have got a lot of games, but if they do keep picking up points in the way they do, I think they're probably not favourites for the top 6, but you'd put them up there. Villa on the run they've been in would probably go into second favourites for the top 6, and Spurs, the run they're on, are probably the most likely to drop all the way down to 8th, which would be quite the fall off considering where they were 6 weeks ago or so. So Spurs keep losing, Brighton slip up here and there, Villa win two games out of the last 4, 3 games out of the last 4. It's a big ask, of course, but we are playing the sides around us. The tweet I put out after full time was that, yes, it's the 10-game streak's over, etc., but take this loss, regroup. If you go unbeaten in the next 4, which again is also a tough ask, if that's all you do, stay unbeaten, and you win 2, draw 2, you've probably done enough to get into the top 6, or certainly the top 7, you'd like to think. But it's on Villa now to kind of regroup and go, right, there's still a lot to play for. Let's not be too doom and gloom about a 1-0 away at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think finishing in the top 6, so 5 or 6, I think that was always going to be a tall order. Even a couple of weeks ago, or before the Brentford game, or after we beat Fulham, that to me was always going to be difficult because although Brighton have got a lot of gains and half of them are against teams in the top 4, that's still an incredible team. And as we saw against Wolves, they rested Matoma, couple of others top. Yeah, Casado, and then I think there was another one as well. And they blew Wolves away, and that probably says as much about Wolves as what it does about Brighton. But again, like Liverpool, their games that they've got, you'd expect them to win all of them. Probably won't happen, but I do think there's a bit of a soft underbelly with Liverpool at the moment as well, because they just about got through Forest. Although they blitzed Spurs in the first 5-10 minutes today, but that's Tottenham again. They probably shouldn't have won that game in the end, should they? So there's weaknesses in the teams that are around us, but yeah, Spurs has to be the team that are going to drop out of it for me, because Liverpool, I presume, will finish fifth because of the games, and they will want to finish fifth as well. Brighton, yeah, difficult with Brighton because they have games on us, but at the same time, yeah, tricky fixtures and a lot of them. But they're a good team themselves. So I think seventh is probably what we're going to have to aim for, because I'd have thought we're probably going to have to win 3, to be fair, over the last 4. Because although Spurs aren't brilliant at the moment, we're going to have to beat them. Plus, they're going to have to continue the poor run that they're on. But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, just the thought of not finishing in the top 7 now fills me with a bit of like, kind of gets you down a little bit just thinking about it. But, Wolves is going to be really tough. I think they're in the top 6 since Lopetegui came in, and they've got a really good home record, apart from the one that they lost against Bournemouth or Leeds or whatever it was. But the home record's been really good up until now. And then obviously we're going to have to beat Spurs. That's a must win. Liverpool away is going to be tough. And then Brighton's a must win in the last game of the season. And obviously, if we have to win that or we have to get a draw, whatever it may be, you'd back Villa to do it on the final day. But it's getting there, and it's how are we going to get over this defeat? And to be honest, I don't think this is going to take much out of us, if I'm being perfectly honest, but just because I think we actually coped with the game well. Emery was disappointed that we didn't control it, and I agree. I don't think we did in certain stages, but that's a Man United team that we've only lost once at home all season, and that was against Brighton on the first day. So, it's probably the hardest place to go in the Premier League, apart from possibly the Etihad. So, yeah, we can't be too downbeat on this performance, but I think Wolves away, that's going to be the sort of, don't get me wrong, if we don't beat Wolves, we're not out of the European picture altogether. But I do think that is, I'd almost go as far to say if we don't win that, I don't know if we will get European football, because we then have to beat Spurs, have to beat Brighton, and probably get something out of Liverpool too, which will be, I wouldn't bet against us doing that, but that's going to make the job a whole lot harder if we don't beat Wolves. And what's the saying? Like a wounded animal is probably more dangerous than Wolves. Wolves losing 6-1 is probably going to. I don't think that's going to help us in any way. Or was it 6-0 even? That's going to help us at the weekend. That they're not going to be playing as lackluster as what they were against Brighton, against us in front of home fans. One of the last home games of the season. Obviously, it's a big rivalry for them, more so than for us. So yeah, we'll see what Wolves brings us. But yeah, today again, can't be too disappointed. But we need to get back in the saddle now and get a good result against Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, we said we'd talk about Wolves later, and this is the post-Man United show, so we will talk about the Man United game in a sec. But we've talked about Wolves, or you've talked about Wolves there, so let's kind of get it out of the way, I suppose. Them losing 6-0 to Brighton yesterday and then being absolutely up for it next week is nailed on, isn't it? I mean, they'll want a reaction from that. Like I say, you won't stand for that. You mentioned their home record, which I think they've won 6 out of 8 at home or something of the last 8. It's something like that. So it's their cup final, isn't it? At this stage of the season, if they're on the beach, bouncing back from a bad defeat and beating the Villa would be, absolute dreamland for their lot, wouldn't it? So you'd expect them to be fully up for it. You now have also got the fact that Villa have got to bounce back from a defeat as well. And yes, it's nothing like the 6-0, but Unai Emery won't stand for today either. And whether we were good or bad or should have got something or not, he will want to bounce back and have a reaction and go away to Wolves and win, because that'll be the mentality. They'll want to win every single game. If you are going to go unbeaten for the rest of the season, beat Wolves first and have a bit of a mini resurgence. Maybe then is it Wolves, Spurs, Liverpool, Brighton, or Wolves, Liverpool? So if you beat Wolves and Spurs, then Liverpool you might nick a draw, or you say you lose. On the last day of the season, if it comes down to having to beat Brighton to get into the top 7, I would back us to do that, and that would be winning 3 out of 4, and that probably would be enough to do it. But that Wolves game it's always one that you'd identify as being difficult just because of what it is. Whether it's a rivalry or not to us is irrelevant. To them it is, and at their place they'll be up for it. I would almost have preferred them to have got something against Brighton yesterday. Firstly, to take points off Brighton, and also to maybe kind of extend their on the beach mentality for next week. To lose in the way they did, it does make you think there'll be some kind of reaction, and they'll love to beat Villa and stop us in our track. So that will be difficult. But again, that's probably the kind of test to go. If you can go to Wolves and beat them off the back of that and pile on the misery for their lot, that would fill me with confidence for the following 3 games to go, right, yes, Spurs, Liverpool and Brighton are the tougher games than Wolves, but Wolves is a tough kind of circumstance as well on top of it. So if you get through that, then almost back us to go and get something against the better sides as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to be honest, I just view the Wolves game as must win because I wouldn't be particularly confident going into the last 3 if we've only drawn that game, because then we're going to probably have to at least win against Brighton and Spurs, which puts a load of pressure on that Spurs game. And I know Spurs have been battered against Newcastle, but then they come back against United, and they probably should have come back against Liverpool, or they did up until the last second. So that Spurs team isn't down and out just yet either. So although I don't think we'll beat them, that Wolves game's huge, because if we don't beat Wolves, then all of a sudden the teams that are around us going into that last game of the season, you're probably going to think, oh, well, we're going to we'll have to beat Brighton, and we'll have to hope other teams do us favours against teams who are good, obviously being Liverpool, Brighton, Spurs. So yeah, Wolves is huge. I think that's probably the biggest game that we're going to have, or we have had since that West Ham game to stay up in 1920, potentially, unless I've missed one, obviously excluding cup games or whatever. But yeah, Wolves is huge. You have to win that game now. I almost don't care about performances. That's out the window at this stage of the season. Just get the job done. But yeah, it's going to be difficult because that Wolves side, again, it's presumably the penultimate home game of the season. Villa at home, it's the cup final, and there'll be that'll be a crowd baying for blood as well, because Wolves have done well under Lopetegui. It's not going to be toxic there or anything. They're going to be backing Wolves, so yeah, it will be really tough. And it's just a shame that we couldn't help ourselves today by just nicking a point or something, or not conceding. But we have, and this is the position we're in. And again, it's such a good position to be in going into the last 4. It's just those last 3 are really difficult games. And yes, they're against teams that are around us. But yeah, you've got to go off to a good start against Wolves and beat them. Because if we don't, I'm probably looking at the last 3 then and thinking, well, we're going to have to get results against all of them, I would have thought. Because Brighton's form isn't going to change, I don't think, even though they've got a lot of games. Liverpool, I would have put in 5th. And yeah, you have to beat Spurs anyway. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Wolves will be huge.
Let's talk about Man United then. I've starred 10 comments. You can now star the live comments that come through, so I can actually keep track of the things we want to talk about. So let's get some conversation about Man United going in the comments as well, please, and we'll come to those in a second. The first one I want to mention from Mr. Cheesyfy. He said, great name. Should we start making changes given how tired and stretched we've looked? If yes, who can come into the side? I mean, if the second part is the difficult thing there, who can come in? I think after the Fulham game, we said about Villa kind of not having to get out of first gear because they didn't have to. And if Fulham had have scored, I'd have backed Villa to come out fighting and got another, because it was that kind of game that felt it was in Villa's control. The opposing argument to that was that Villa were tired, jaded, had come to the end of the run out of steam kind of thing, and it wasn't them playing out of first gear out of choice. It was just that they couldn't kind of expend any more energy than that. I kind of countered that with saying, well, Fulham were poor, didn't threaten us, so we didn't have to do any more. I kind of feel like if the same arguments are being said today about Man United, I'd have to kind of sit back and say, yes, I agree that it does look a bit more like a tired side at this point, and a side that has put a lot into the last 10 games or so. And we'll talk about kind of the disappointment if we miss out and those kind of things, and the perspective of where we were when Emery came to where we are now. And if the season finished now and we lost every game, you'd still say it's a good season, which would feel weird and disappointing because you don't want to lose that many games at the end. But you know what I mean? It does feel like a bit of a tired side now, and that first 11 has put in a hell of a lot over the last few weeks. It's the same starting 11 every week. Our injured players don't seem to be coming back. You look to the bench and you're calling on Traore, Jhon Duran. Yes, they might make an impact every so often. Leicester away, for example, for Traore, but it's not a banker. You're not looking at the bench and thinking, like Newcastle, they can bring on Almiron or Callum Wilson and somebody that's already in form. We're relying on somebody who's not been in the team to come in and change it, and they can't effectively. So do you agree that we look tired and stretched? And if we do, which I think we both think we do, what can we do to change it? Unless Kamara and Cash and whoever else are suddenly fit next week, it's going to be the same 11, I think.
Yeah, Emery said after the game that he's hopeful that maybe a couple of the injured players will be able to come back for the squad against Wolves, but then countered it by saying, but obviously they're coming, most of them anyway, coming out from like a month out, so they're not going to be ready to start and make much of an impact. But just coming off the bench will probably help. And to be fair, we do have a week, don't we, or 6 days for Wolves, so it's not as if we're playing Monday, Tuesday again like the likes of Brighton will be. So that is a plus this stage of the season. Against United, yeah, we did look jaded and slightly stretched because there was points in the game where obviously we were playing a high line so we could win the ball back higher up the pitch and then take it into their final third, more regularly. But that didn't seem to happen. I don't remember us having a sort of significant spell of pressure in and around their box. And considering the system that we've played, that's the whole reason why we played it, basically. Although the ball's coming over our back line more often than not, the reason why we've done it is to counter that. And I don't think we had the legs in the team to get up and down the pitch to basically play that system as well as what Emery wanted. And he did say as well after the game that we are playing United and playing a team that, although we're trying to play that sort of system and play that sort of way, it was always going to be difficult. And I think he probably knew that it's made more difficult because we've played 3 games in 8 days. The same players, the same subs as well. So there's not much sort of creativity in terms of what we're doing at the moment. And again, that's not criticism at all because we've put in the absolute maximum over the last 10 games because the players that are missing, Coutinho, he wasn't really starting, was he? I know he started the Arsenal game when he scored and then got injured. Bailey was starting for the most part, but at the same time, Buendia was also playing a fair share of games from the off. Matty Cash was starting, to be fair, at the time, but then Ashley Young comes in and does well, and I've missed one out. Kamara obviously was starting to. So, yeah, hopefully for Wolves we can get a couple back, but I don't think they'll be starting unless they get a really good week's worth of preparation in. But I don't think any of the players that we've started today will be knackered or anything for that Wolves game. It's just going to be a case of on 60 minutes or 50, whatever it is, quick subs and then sort of fresh impetus change the game because we can't do much when the game gets stale at the moment either. That's the issue.
Yeah.
We can't change things. And we were saying before we had the sort of raft of injuries about in-game management and little tactical tweaks and changes that we're making that Emery's made. That's the sort of difference between an elite coach and whatever. But we can't actually do that at the moment. So we're a bit hamstrung at the moment, which is a shame because it's come at the wrong time in the season. So, yeah, the only positive is that Wolves is still 6 games away. We can prepare properly for that, have a proper game plan, and those players, I'm sure, will be, banged up for it. Because, again, today, I don't think we played particularly bad. It's just that our players were knackered because they've played so much. They're playing on a big pitch away from home against a team who've only lost once, again, which was the opening day at home. They're playing Man United, who are 3rd in the league now. So, again, there's always going to be a time where that run was going to end. It's just a shame it had to end before the start of next season, I suppose. But I don't know, this almost feels like, do you remember when we went on that 10-game winning run in the Championship and then the last game of the season we had Norwich and I think we lost 2-1 or something. It almost, at that point anyway, it felt like, we can now go into the playoffs without that sort of feeling of...
Like you've got a loss out of the way.
Yeah. It's probably sounds stupid, but going into the last 4 games of the season, everything's now like a clean slate. We didn't score in the last game, so that record's done. Obviously, we've lost the game, but now we've got 4 games to really just go at it, and we've got a lot of preparation between each one. Players, again, hopefully will be coming back, although we haven't had them, hopefully by the last 3 games, players will be ready to start again. I don't know exactly who, he didn't mention, but he just said a couple. So they'll be training next week, at least 2 of them, hopefully 4. But again, we don't know who. It's just a shame today we had to lose the game and lose it 1-0 in a bit of a sloppy goal, a bit of an annoying, frustrating game. But we've got a lot to look forward to in the last 4 games. Just hopefully we can, make do with what we've got, I suppose, which is a shame. But that's just the way it is. We've got to go on with it.
Your point there about getting kind of the loss out of the way is my weird fan mentality to go like, Villa won't go unbeaten for 15 games in a row, which is what it would have taken to go unbeaten to the end of the season.
Although we could, it just doesn't...
We could, but it just doesn't sound right, does it?
Exactly.
Doing 10 is unbelievable in itself. So I would feel like to do 10 and then lose today and then do 4 unbeaten, that sounds manageable. It'd still be 14 unbeaten out of 15, but you know what I mean? Like you've broken up the streak. Yeah. So I did that tweet after the full time and somebody said, we won't go unbeaten in the last 4. And it's like, well, why not? Like, there's nothing to say we don't have to, but like if that's the mentality, just don't lose any of those games and you'll probably get into Europe. that feels achievable. But having a run of 15 or 20 odd with scoring every single game, that's going to run out at some point. And today was that day. Another couple of comments from Jacob.
Sorry, that was Emi Martinez said after the game as well. We didn't go to Old Trafford to draw the game. We went to win, and I don't think that's lip service either. I generally think that's probably the case because we were obviously hanging in. I say hanging in. We were trying to control it and not concede, and we've always got a goal in us, as we've shown throughout the last 20 games before now, and we nearly got it, to be fair. Conser, and I think it was offside for Luiz when he had it cleared off the line.
Yeah.
So I was glad about that, by the way, because that would have irked me for weeks if you know what I mean. Cleared off the line and was going top corner at Old Trafford. But yeah, it's clean slate. Last 4 games, we'll just go at them and sort of play with no fear, and we'll see what we can do.
The comment I was going to bring up was from Jacob. He says, "I thought United got quite lucky today, although we didn't deserve a point." I don't know whether I'd say we deserved a point, but in another 90 minutes, that game does end in a draw, and I think everyone goes, "Yeah, fair enough." Whether we deserved it or not is probably a slightly different matter, but I don't think many would have grumbled either side if that ended in a draw today. And the other bit was about the style of play today. I have starred them, so I should be able to see them, but I can't. It's about the high line. From Lee. So Emery's a great manager, but playing a high line against a side with one of the quickest forwards in the game is mental. Now, I agree to a certain extent, but you're far more technical and tactical than I am, and Unai Emery is far more tactical and technical than both of us combined. So you'd like to think if that's the way they've come out to play, they've done it for a reason. But playing a very high line away at Old Trafford where they can pump long balls to Rashford to run in behind does feel like a recipe for disaster. So do you have any more insight than I do? And can you see what Emery was trying to do with that?
The only thing I'd say on that is I don't actually think we were caught out many times by it. I know
they did do it a couple of times.
True, but like, for example, their goal, Martinez said that was the first time in 40 minutes that he actually played a long ball from a goal kick. And it sods more that was the one time that Casemiro has like a bullet header that goes perfectly into the Rashford stride. I thought the game plan was actually okay because, again, the purpose why we've done that is to win the ball high up and then try and control it and dominate it ourselves. I think if we were penned back and playing 10, 20 yards deeper, well, then they've still got Fernandes, Eriksen, Rashford can make runs that are, instead of a 12 to 20 yard sprint, he can run 3 yard sprint and get him behind the defenders. So it probably looks crazy, but at the same time, those players can use their attributes in those tight spaces. And I don't actually think it would have helped us being so far back today. That's just my opinion. And I think that's probably what Emery's thought as well. I'm not trying to say that we're thinking alike, but the reason why I've done it is to win the ball back high, try and dominate where we can in their final third, which we didn't manage to do. But yeah, defensively, I don't think it would have particularly mattered. Like, if we're going to be so much more deep, I think they would have just controlled it with Eriksen, Fernandes. They got so many technical players, and we'd have probably been chasing shadows for most of it. So I'm okay with us playing higher. And I actually think Mings and Concert did well today. They won all their ground duels and aerial duels. I know I always say that, but they did. And playing out from the back, I think, worked too. So I don't think I think it was mainly just because we were tired, and with that comes sort of fatigue on the ball, off the ball. But yeah, I take the point of we were, in behind, going to be vulnerable. But I don't think it was. You're going to be vulnerable against Man United, however you play. They've got so many tools and weapons to bring off the bench as well. So I actually think we managed it relatively well.
Okay. There's a couple of comments from Ian. I'll only flash one up on screen. He says, I think people have got carried away lately. We have massively overachieved with such a thin squad. Top 10 is a massive achievement and we should be happy with that. Top 7 won't happen. Neil, that I won't flash up. It's not negative. Look at our squad. Emery's done amazingly well, but a lot of fans have got a bit sucked into it all. We look tired and running out of steam, which is expected. Again, I kind of agree with Ian's sentiments to an extent that we are kind of running out of steam a little bit. But that's today. If we beat Wolves and Spurs in the next 2, you kind of go, "Oh, we're revitalised, we're energised, and we're ready to go." So, if the season fizzles out and we don't pick up another point, I'd say, yeah, we've run out of steam. The 10 games was as far as we could go, and that was it. But today, like you said, I don't think we've played that badly. And on another day, that game's a draw, and we're all pretty okay with that. I just want to kind of hone in on the point about, have we all got a bit carried away? Is that a fair assessment, do you think?
No, we've won 8 of the last 10 games. Maybe carried away in terms of that run
Champions League.
But since Emery's come in, only 2 teams have got more points than us, and those are the best 2 teams in the division. And that's not over the course of 5 or 6 games. In fact, over the course of 6 games before this game, we had got the most points. But since Emery come in over 20 games, which is basically half the season, then only 2 teams have got more points. So that's enough of a sample size for us, I suppose, to get carried away. Like, what can we achieve with that? I'm sure Newcastle fans were saying this last season as well, in terms of, their sort of remarkable run from bottom of the table up until towards the top half, or maybe they did get the top half, I'm not too sure. But it's got parallels with that with us, I think, at the moment. And again, while you don't want to get too high with the highs and too lows with the lows, but although we've beat United, I don't think that's sort of room to then say, oh, we're not going to get top 7, like season's over or whatever. That's, again, United don't lose at home, and we've come very close to drawing with them. And, again, I think if we had 7 days, I know we had 2 days rest on them, to be fair, but they've got so many top players to bring off the bench and change the game anyway. I think if we had a full squad and days rest, a week rest, and we hadn't been playing at our maximum for the last, however long, then we would have given them a better game. So no, I don't think we're getting carried away necessarily. I totally get the point, because we've been nowhere really for the last 2 years, but we've proven that we can mix it with all the good teams. We should have got something out of Arsenal. We should have got something out of today. I think Liverpool game at home was a frustrating one, because that came after that was on Boxing Day, wasn't it? And they got 3 goals, but they didn't deserve to score, or we should have had more than one. So we can compete against the best teams. We can clearly get points against any team in the division, as well as, again, 8 wins out of 10. So I don't think we're sort of anywhere that we shouldn't be, because, again, the sample size is so big. That's half of the season. So I don't think we're getting carried away. And, again, we completely deserve to be where we are, and outsiders are saying it as well. So it's not just us thinking that we're better than what we should be or something.
Let's talk about Buendia. Tony says Buendia needs a rest. Discuss. And Erin says Buendia is not that good, a position we must upgrade. Now, I agree that Buendia struggled today. I think I saw a tweet from somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they're talking about the way he kind of holds players, kind of backs into them and turns them. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, you think, oh, come on, like, give us something a bit different. You're being muscled off the ball, and because I don't know, it's a physical thing that he looks small. You just think, oh, come on, like, you've been pushed off there. But when it does work, you think, oh yeah, look at him go. So it's a very kind of flawed kind of analysis of that. But yeah, I think people probably expect more from Buendia, given how much he cost, and that he played so well in the Championship, getting whatever it was, 15 goals and 15 assists, or whatever it was before he joined us, that he's only got, did he get his first assist of the season a few weeks ago? Like, you'd expect him to have done better numbers than he has. Do we need to upgrade? I'm waffling here because I'm trying to kind of get my own thoughts out, but I don't know what I think of him. That's probably my analysis of it. I kind of want to believe and think he is the right fit, but if Emery goes, actually, he's not right, here's somebody else, and he fits this position perfectly, I wouldn't be like, oh no, Buendia's gone. I kind of go, yeah, right, fair enough. So I'm indifferent to him probably. I like him, but if he can be upgraded, I'm all for that. How do you feel about him?
I've said it for a while now, and there were, up until, I actually think that recently, apart from the last 2 or 3 games, I think he was actually doing all right. During that sort of run, but when we got 8 out of 10 wins, but that's because I think everyone played well. So like, I can't recall, and I always say that I can't recall like 4 or 5 games where he's really taken the game by the scruff of the neck, and he's been the best player on the pitch. And again, for the record signing, that's what you expect, don't you? Especially in the position that he's in. He does play a key role in terms of how we build up and how we try and use the ball and sort of move through the 30. He does play a key role in that, but that isn't a role that, that no one else can do. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be looking to say upgrade, but I don't think it's upgrading Buendia. It's just upgrading the squad and upgrading what options we have in attack. Because obviously he's playing that role with Watkins, isn't he, at the moment? Even though he probably could be doing the same position as Ramsey or McGinn, where they're playing sort of slightly more advanced than the double pivot. But that role next to Watkins, that is something that we're going to improve on, or at least add competition to in the summer. So his position will come under threat. Leon Bailey's behind him as well, so there's another player. And I don't know if he's sort of a casualty of the sort of playing every game and being tired. I don't know if that works with Buendia because he seems to be buzzing about a lot. But yeah, like today, he's just lacking quality. He lost the ball a lot. And again, that's the first thing that you need if you're an Unai Emery player is to protect the ball, control it, and move it basically, and find the right positions and contribute. And he isn't really doing any of those things at the moment, which is a shame because he definitely can, but he's just not showing it. And simply put, you have to show it, else you'll find yourself on the bench next season. So I'm with the fans that are sort of, say, criticising him. I suppose it is critical to say it, but again, these are all things that Emi Buendia will be perfectly aware of, and that Emery will be aware of as well. There's definitely a player in there, and he does have the quality to make it as a good Premier League player, but he's just not being consistent enough with it. I think that's the issue. And again, in the summer, we will be looking at those positions, and we will be buying players to improve the 11. And if that means Buendia dropping to the bench or playing less games, then you know what? That might be a good thing for him because he can come off the bench and make an impact. And sometimes players do need competition to start getting to higher levels, should we say. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think it's a case of him sort of being binned out of the squad in the summer or whatever, and he'll be making way for someone. Again, it's just competition. You need that in a squad, as we've proven right now, because you look at the bench and we've got two players who come on every game in Luka Dean and Bertrand Traore. And, you can't expect them to make an impact every game, else they wouldn't be on the bench, would they? So
yeah. Like I said, I couldn't kind of verbalise my thoughts on Buendia. I think he's been probably unfairly criticised and probably goes under the radar a little bit, but I also want and expect more of him at the same time. So here's a few quick comments. I'll flash them through. Si says they've left Mings alone now. The scapegoat is Buendia. Lemming says he's the record signing and he's bang average. Buendia needs to play the simple pass more often. Buendia seems to play best as an impact player off the bench. Good squad player, says Jacob, but shouldn't be a starter next season. He does struggle physically sometimes, says Mr. Cheesify. Second mention for Mr. Cheesify. And Buendia needs competition. Competition for places can have a material impact on a player's performance. And at the minute, he's a nailed-on starter due to injuries. Yeah. And finally, from John, Buendia is a class player, but it's too lightweight in the role he's being asked to play. All kind of fair comments, I think.
Yeah, that especially the point about he needs competition. I do think that is almost the main point for me. Like competition at the moment, because he knows he's playing every week, and it is probably just a mentality thing if he knows he's going to be playing from the off. And yeah, listen, we'll see what happens next season, because this is now his second full season at the club, obviously, but the first one was difficult because of a manager change in Dean Smith. This year's been difficult because of Gerrard. At the start, didn't really play him at all, but now he's had an opportunity and he hasn't quite taken it, I don't think. Leon Bailey sort of similar, but again, he does play a key role in the way that we build up. There are qualities there that Emery clearly likes. In terms of his combative as well, he can contribute defensively and he does get around the pitch. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the summer. I think that's the sort of the takeaway from Buendia, but ultimately I think everyone's looking for more, including himself.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's go back to Man United from Michael. What do you hate most about Man United and why is it Bruno Fernandes? Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I tweeted during the game, is there a more dislikable character in the Premier League than Bruno Fernandes? And there's 72 replies. I'm 90% sure that 72 replies all say no, he's the most dislikable player in the Premier League. One shout for Patrick Bamford, which made me laugh, because I've had a go about him before. I just don't like Fernandes. It's a chance to have a little bit of a moan, I guess. The record that he scored is 7 goals against us now in 8 games is frankly ridiculous. The most goals against any opposition in his career is Aston Villa. Every time we play them, he's involved in some kind of event in that he's either scoring or some kind of controversy, winning a penalty or diving or moaning or whinging or whatever he's up to. I just don't like him. He's horrible, isn't he? Is that fair to say? It's not fair to say. I really shouldn't be doing that with somebody like that, but he's just so unlikable. Just the way...
I don't know about, to be honest, I don't really care how footballers act or whatever, but when it's sort of simulative and they're always on the floor and sort of crying around and rolling around, holding their ankle when it was the thigh that got hit or something. Do you know what I mean?
Their face when it was nowhere near.
Yeah, that sort of stuff's just it's cheating, isn't it? Because do you know what I mean? Straight up. But to be honest, again, he's probably one of those players that you want on your team rather than not. He is the one thing I would say about Fernandes is he is a winner, and he does strive for the best, and that's something that Tottenham are missing. I know they wanted to sign him when United got him instead, and that's exactly the sort of player they need right now. So every player needs that. Sorry, every team needs that sort of player. But at the same time, I think if United fans must look at him, and to be fair, I think Neville said it a lot when he's rolling around and sort of shrugging his arms up and down and whatever. Then that stuff's just I don't see how that can benefit anyone. But yeah, someone's just mentioned that he said something about the Villa fans. I have no idea what was said or if it was bad.
I've seen it. Yeah, he was asked about his celebration in front of the Villa fans, and he just kind of stood there staring. And the reporter, whoever it was, said that the Villa fans been giving you some stick, so you kind of stood in front of them to celebrate, and just kind of gave them a stare, kind of thing.
Right.
And he just said something like, "No, there's no disrespect. I scored at that end. I always go to that corner because I'm not going to run up to the other end in front of the Man United fans." It's just whatever, mate. Still a cheating rat bag, isn't it?
Jeez.
Sorry.
Again, yeah, he's a winner, but I think you can be a bit more respectful in terms of your colleagues and other players and maybe fans as well sometimes. But
yeah,
improve.
Say like you'd like him if he played for you, and you probably would, but like he's moaning about his own teammates more often than not.
Mentality I like.
I hate that kind of
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. The mentality I like and what he brings in terms of he's a winner, but the added stuff which Fernandes seems to bring and no one else seems to, that stuff, no, I wouldn't like anywhere near my dressing room.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Jhon Duran. There's a couple of comments about when we were talking earlier about how we impact games off the bench. When I'd come back from paternity leave, he just signed and he'd featured a little bit and maybe did a little flick or something. And I saw it on Twitter and I was like, I'm excited to get back and like see this guy because he seems to have a bit of something about him. He seems to be a good character. Any kind of video he's sticking on social media, he seems to be absolutely loving it. Doing little kick-ups with the ball boys and all the mascots and stuff. And you kind of go, there's a character there. There's something in Jhon Duran somewhere. We're just yet to see it. As a footballer, I probably haven't seen enough of him yet to kind of pass a judgment, I guess, but maybe we would like to have seen a little bit more of an impact. So a couple of questions from Erin and Mr. Cheesify again. Christ, big shout-outs for these two. There's loads of comments, by the way. These are the ones I've just picked randomly. Not impressed with Duran, with what he's shown just yet. He came on and complained most of the time. Mr. Cheesify says, third mention, Duran can offer something different at least. I suppose it's the unknown with Duran. If you're bringing him on for 15 minutes, you kind of think, well, what is he going to do? Is he going to do something out of nothing?
I think it's been very good when he's come on. I don't know how other fans feel about it, but just I've actually seen the sort of, I don't know if there's a split opinion or whatever, but I think it's been very good when he's come on, like really encouraging for is he 19-year-old, isn't he? He puts his body about and he causes chaos really whenever he comes on. I think he should be brought on almost every game because I don't see what he does that's affecting us in a bad way. Like against City, he comes on and nearly scores one of the best goals we've scored in the Premier League era. Against Leicester, he put himself around well. Against Arsenal, he did the same thing. There was another game as well. I forget. And then today, I thought he did well because there was a couple of occasions where we couldn't quite get out. And then it was just a simple ball over to Duran and he held off the defender well. There was one where I think he spun one of the defenders or something. And then Watkins couldn't sort of give him the ball back or something like that. But I just think, again, like the chap says there, it gives us something different, something that we don't have. It's hard to compare in terms of other strikers. There's definitely a striker there that I know that I've seen before, but I can't figure out who it is. He's almost like a blend of different forwards. But
one of the comments mentions Darwin Núñez. Is that fair?
Maybe. Not the one that I had in my head, but yeah, potentially. But
the physicality, isn't it? And I also like the fact, and these are kind of things that you probably shouldn't really like champion, but got a yellow card against Newcastle for doing something stupid, just kind of getting in someone's face or having a go or hacking someone down. I can't remember what it quite was. And today he got into a little bit of a scuffle with Luke Shaw as well. And even if it's that he's going to come on and just disrupt people and be a bit of an annoyance and frustrate the opposition, that might create an opening for somebody else. There's
a time and place for that sort of stuff, and I don't know if he's learnt that sort of art yet, but if he has that side to him, then maybe it could work for us. I don't know if it helped today because it kind of just wasted a bit of time. But from what I've seen of him, I'm really impressed. Like genuinely, I think he can be a really good player. The only issue is that strikers just, you've got to be some special talent to become a top striker at the age of 21 or even 22, which is going to be in 2 or 3 seasons' time. And by then, you're going to hope that he's going to be as good enough to start for us and make an impact. So but it's rare that happens. Obviously Haaland breaks that mold. A couple of other players, I know Haaland's like elite, but like Brighton's Ferguson, he's 19, I think, and look what he's doing. So it's very rare that you can come across those players. Hopefully Duran is that for us, but yeah, we'll wait and see. But personally, I've been really impressed by what I've seen, and I want to see more of it. But it's difficult because obviously Emery sees these players every day. He doesn't sleep until like 4 a.m. probably in terms of what he's doing at Bodymore. So I'm not questioning at all him having like a lack of game time or anything like that. But if we are lacking numbers in the attack, I'm surprised he hasn't probably had a bit more game time than what he's been given. Yeah, we'll see what happens next season, because obviously, again, we're going to be having more numbers come in terms of the attacking area of the pitch. Maybe he'll go out on loan potentially. I don't know if that's an option.
There's a comment which I was about to mention from Lee, says loan him out to Victoria. There's one for you.
That's probably the obvious one. The Portuguese league makes players, don't they? So makes players, don't they? That's a really poorly worded sentence, but you know what I mean? They've obviously got a history of developing players.
And mould players.
Yeah, I did write a nice piece about this, and I can't even talk about it now. Yeah.
There's one more individual I want to talk about, because I'm wary for time a little bit, and that's Ollie Watkins. There's a comment out earlier. It was sort of kind of like he's kind of cooled off a little bit now. So can we rely on him next season to be the man who will score 20 goals, whatever? I would like to think the form he's shown since January is that yes, he can still be that man. He's recently had a second child, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. It might have been me and Ash, or months ago, in fact. I think it was me and Ash, and we talked about the run of form he had after his first baby, and how maybe that had an impact, because you kind of forget sometimes that they are just human beings with responsibilities. And if he is having rough nights with a little one, it is good. Like, as much as it sounds like a stupid point, that is going to affect like your day-to-day job as a normal person. Never mind going out with the pressure of having to score goals and be physically fit and alert and all those kind of things. And yes, people are going to go, oh, they paid a lot of money, kind of just get on with it. But he did have a dip off in form after his first child. He's now had a second one 3-4 weeks ago as a rough guess, and he's probably not scored since then. He might have scored one since then. So again, people are just going to start going, well, maybe he's just tired, maybe he's got more pressure and more responsibility at home, and that's affecting his footballing life. The flip side of that is people will go, well, he's got something to play for, like he's got to provide for his family and all these kind of things. But there has been a slight dip off over the last couple of games, as the whole side has, I guess, if we're talking about Villa looking tired and jaded. If Watkins is going to have this run of form of scoring goals and then goes 3 or 4 games without scoring, that's kind of par for the course, isn't it? He's going to go through those spells. But I'd still back Watkins to score. If he's starting most games, I'd still back him to score 1 every 2 and finish on 15 goals kind of thing in the season.
Well, but a lot of it is service, isn't it? So,
of course, yeah.
How many chances do we make against Brentford? Not many. How many chances do we make against Fulham? Not many, because for the second half we didn't really play. And today, again, you're playing United, so we didn't create a whole load, too many chances either. So ultimately, it's what can you do with the service that he's getting? He's not going to score an individual goal every game. So yeah, I have like no worries, but for that at all. It ultimately just depends how we play, and if we play to our best ability and we're putting balls in the box and making use of space, and again playing as Emery wants us to, Watkins will score goals. There's no doubt about it. To be honest, whoever's up front, and that's not saying anything against Watkins, but as long as we've got players, in the final third making good movement and whatever it may be, like whoever we're going to sign in the summer to play alongside him, as long as chances are created, we're going to score goals. Whoever the chance falls to, more often than not, Watkins will take them, because he's obviously a better finisher than some of the players that we have, and that's why he's played as a striker. But yeah, I have no doubts that he'll get goals next season and get us, plus 15 goals. That's fine. He might not score whatever he got. Was it like 9 and 11? I think it was his best. I think
so.
He might not do that next season, but if he gets 17 and 35. That's cool, because it's that sort of goal return that will get us into the top 7 next season as well.
Let's kind of finish then with almost like not an assessment of the season, because I know it's not over, but kind of maybe a dose of perspective, let's say. There's 3 comments that I'll read in quick succession, and we'll kind of get the comments to chip in as well in a second. Steve said, actually, I'll leave Steve till last. Adam, European dream is over for me. Been poor the last 3 games, so a loss was coming. D, we're out of the race. Not because of the result, but because we look knackered. And Steve, whatever happens now, it's been a brilliant show since Unai came on board. Gerrard would have taken us down for sure. Today was just a game too far. Now, I'm inclined to agree with Steve there at this present time. If we finish 8th now, we're doing our end of season kind of review at some point, and we'll have details on that soon as well. Will I sit there if we finish 8th and say it's been a brilliant season? Yes, probably, but I will be immediately after the season ends, I will be disappointed that we fell out of 5th place at one stage down to 8th in the last month of the season, because it's natural to lose a couple of games and dip out. It's the way the games have come, isn't it? If you just told us back in November you'll finish 8th, we'd have gone, yep, cool, thanks for that. That's great. Well, that's a massive improvement. That's a great season. But because we've been in around the top 6 for a few weeks now, to finish outside of European football at all, and I'm talking about 8th place specifically. If it's 7th, I'll say yes, brilliant season. I'm talking about no European football whatsoever. I will probably sit there and go, deflated. There's the word in the comments. That's how I feel. Deflated in the moment. With hindsight, I'll probably go, it's still a great season because Gerrard was going to take us down. That was a fact. He was woeful, and we've massively improved since then. I can't quite get on board with the comment saying that we're out of the race and the European dream is over, because there's still 4 games to go. And to say that on the 30th of April, when in theory, yes, I don't think we're going to do it. In theory, you could win 4 games out of 4, because if you do, European football is absolutely guaranteed. Then it's not going to happen. But you know what I mean? I can't write it off when it's not mathematically impossible. Do I think that we're kind of coming to the end of a good run of form? Possibly. If we lose to Wolves and we don't beat Spurs, it might be a step too far to jump back up into the top 7.
No.
But it's not impossible till it's mathematically over. So yes, it's been a brilliant season, but because we've come as far as we have, I think you've at least got to finish in the top 7 to ride that wave of momentum of feeling like it's been a great season.
I don't think you can't say the European dream or us getting Europe is over. Like you can't, because again, respect the opinion, but at this stage of the season, every game is just taking a singular now. When we play Wolves, if we beat them, can we get European football? Yes.
Yeah.
So of course it's still on. All we've got to do is beat Wolves. I say all we've got to do. It sounds simple, but we're going to go into that game as favourites. And if we win the game, we're going to be sitting in 5th or 6th, heading into the final 3 against Spurs at home. Can we win that? Yes, we can. If we win that, we'll probably finish above Spurs. Even if we lose to Liverpool, because then the final game of the season, again, if we have to win it, you back us to do that against Brighton, who will probably already have European football sewn up by then.
Possibly, yeah.
If we can beat Wolves, it's on. Do you know what I mean? We're there. We're dancing. It's fine, in my opinion. It's just doing it. That's obviously the difficult bit. If we draw against Wolves, then we're not out of it. Of course, we're not, but it makes the job a whole lot harder. And again, that Spurs game is massive. We have to win it. But yeah, I don't think you can say. I think it's negative to say that the European dream's over just because we lost to Man United, who have got an exceptional home record. We play Wolves next. If we beat them, European football's on with 3 games to go against a group of teams who are all around us. That's brilliant. It's like a playoff situation. Will this season be a success if we don't finish in the top 7? Yeah, of course it will, because we'll finish 8th. We're not going to finish lower than that, I don't think, unless we lose, half of our games coming up, and Brentford do, particularly well. But it needs to be contextualised, because obviously we've had a bad first 11 fixtures, but then we've had an exceptional last 27 games, or it will be last 27. So how do you view that? I suppose overall it's a good season, but again, we haven't had a proper season, have we really? Apart from the 20 to 21 season when it was lockdown, of just having a manager from start to finish, and it's all kind of clean, sort of no interruptions. That's going to be next season, so that's something to look forward to, because we know that we're good enough to do it. Again, like we've had 2 seasons of just chopping and changing. We don't know really where we're going, but since Emery's come in, we've been, as I say, really good. So yeah, next season will be fine. To get European football for that season, we've got a game against Wolves that's just huge, and if we can win it, I think we'll all be, in a much happier place than maybe where we are now, where some fans are thinking, we're probably not going to do it anyway. I don't know, maybe it's just a thing of, when you lose games, sometimes you think, well, you kind of tell yourself that it's not on, or you kind of so you don't build your hopes up. All we've got to do is beat Wolves, and we're right back in it. I say right back in it, we're in it now. But yeah, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. For me, let's just take Wolves as a game on its own and see what happens after.
We keep saying take it one game at a time, and every so often the comments will say, lads, you're getting too carried away. It's one game at a time. But for the sake of the podcast, where we are at this point in the season, to still be even involved in a run-in to any degree and it not be a relegation scrap, it's nice that we can still be
Yeah.
talking about it. It's difficult to talk about a game in isolation at this point because it's what does that mean for the running? What does that mean for the end of the season? What does that
Yeah.
mean for Man United now having to go and play X? How does that affect us? So it's difficult to just chat about Aston Villa versus Man United and keep it tight on that. It's all about the wider picture at this point. So we're going to get carried away. If we beat Wolves, it's going to be, oh, what about Brighton on the last day? And we'll be getting carried away for the final three and all this kind of thing. So, yeah, it's the wider picture at this point. If we beat Wolves, it's definitely on. If we lose to Wolves, even then, until it's mathematical, I wouldn't say it's over, but we'll feel right down in the dumps if we lose to Wolves. So,
Yeah, I think we need to win 3 of the next 4, and I think 3 of the next 4 will do it. If we lose to Wolves, then we're going to have to win 3 in a row against
yeah,
all those games. But if you beat Spurs, well, then you go to Liverpool's thinking, oh, we're going to have to win there. And they'll have European football sewn up, as will Brighton when we play them. So anything can happen, but let's just treat it as one game at a time. And I know that sounds a bit like boring, but it's just so true. And again, Wolves, if we can win that game, we're there, hopefully. And we have 2 games then to win at home. The Liverpool game is almost like a free hit for me because I think we'll get top 7 if we can win 3 out of 4.
Okay. I don't think we'll win 3 out of 4. I think we might win 2 and get a point in the other, and we'll see whether that's enough. It depends who we beat. If we take points off Brighton, and that's we'll see.
Are we about to finish?
Yeah. Well, what do you want to do?
Make a quick shout out.
Yeah, fine.
Yes, here we go.
We're at the admin section of the podcast, I would say.
Shout out to Zach. I met Zach at the gym for the support for the podcast. He says he's been watching it for years. We were saying
nice.
we both thought we'd get something out of United, but it wasn't to be. Yeah, but yeah, thanks for the support, Zach. He's backing us for the European tour next season. So yeah.
Lovely stuff. I'll actually do a shout out on behalf of Matt, because obviously Matt's not here today, and I don't know when he's going to be next time because Wolves is away as well, and he doesn't tend to do away games. He was messaging me on Wednesday, I think. Yeah, it's the night after Fulham, and he said that he was walking around wherever, his local town, and a postman came up to him and was like, "Are you Matt Kendrick?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's me." I don't know what he did, but he's like, "Yeah, that's me." And he was like, this postman was on his round delivering letters, and he said, "I'm listening to you right now." And he was listening to the post-match chat of Fulham from the night before on his paper round, whatever you call it. That's mad, isn't it? It's like, to be recognised is one thing, and it's great. For the person who spots you to be also listening to the podcast that you're on at the same time is mind-blowing. If that happens to me, I'll probably just die on the spot.
It's more weird, man, to be honest. It's thinking,
I can imagine that. You turn around and the guy who's talking in your ears is stood in front of you, and just by circumstance, that's mad. The last thing I wanted to plug very quickly is Claret and Blue Live 2.0 is confirmed and is happening on the 1st of June this year. Obviously, it's the 1st of May tomorrow, so it's just over a month. Tickets will be available. They will be free, as far as I'm concerned, right this second. On Tuesday, the 2nd of May, there will be a link on our social media. So follow us on Twitter, Claret Blue Pod, our personal Twitters. It'll be everywhere. We might even do a video on YouTube to announce that the tickets have gone up as well. It's at the Hockley Social Club in Birmingham, the Jewellery Quarter. The venue, we've been there a couple of times now. The venue holds something like 950, and I was like, we won't need that many. I think we had 150 come to our mid-season review at the Aston Social at Christmas when Unai Emery had just come and won 2 games, I think, at that point. Feels like a million years ago, doesn't it? That
you're thinking that was like a post-match from last season, but it was nice.
Midway through this season, madness. And I remember being like going mad for Emery and making him out to this big deal. And I was like, "Oh, you're going to look like a fool if this goes wrong." You were right, to be fair, and he's probably gone way above all of our expectations. Yeah. So we'll be doing an end of season review at the Hockley Social Club in the Jewellery Quarter on June the 1st. Tickets will be free, and there'll be a link for that coming very soon. Me, you'll be there, Matt will be there, Ash will be there hopefully as well. And we'll do an end of season review and a Q&A and a raffle and all those kind of things as well. So Claret and Blue Live 2.0 is confirmed. Stay tuned to our social channels and you'll be able to get tickets for that. That's it for today though, John. Thanks for joining me as always. We've uploaded a video every single day in April, which has been a challenge. Trust me, there's been times where it's like, right, we need a video today to keep up the streak. What are we going to talk about? And it wasn't like, we'll do content for the sake of content, because Villa have been so good recently that it's like there's loads to talk about. But it's like, we need to keep the streak alive. We need to get on and make something and do something. I'm not going to commit.
We're not going to have anything on like the 2nd of May.
Yeah. So tomorrow will be the first day in a month where we don't post a video. It's a bank holiday and I'm off, unbelievably. So there'll be no video tomorrow. We'll probably be back on the 2nd of May or the 3rd of May with something fresh. So we're going to try and do maybe 3 or 4 videos a week instead of 7 a week. There's been some days where we've posted twice as well, which is insanity, really. I know it's our job, but like we've got other responsibilities. So to be able to do a video or a fresh podcast every single day in a month has been an effort. So thank you very much for tuning in over April. Our numbers and stuff have been great because Villa have been good. So it's nice that people have kind of connected with the show, I guess, and found the show. We've had a lot of new subscribers in April, so welcome. But yeah, we won't kind of commit to the same output in the months coming forward, but we are committed to making the podcast bigger and better and getting guests on and doing more things in person and whatnot. But yeah, it's a time thing, I guess, more than anything. John, like I said, thanks for joining me. Thanks for the live people, the fans tuning in live as well, and getting involved in the comments section and kind of guiding the agenda for this show. Like I said, no video tomorrow. We'll be back at some point midweek though with something fresh as we build up to Wolves away. Thanks everyone for watching. Claret and Blue live tickets coming soon, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue and Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your thoughts and comments. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.